All right, we'll begin this calls meeting to order. First bill on the agenda is Senate Bill 2223, a distinctive motor vehicle license tag authorized for the 2021 National Championship Mississippi State Bulldog tag. This may or may not be the omnibus tag bill, but this is certainly one that we can go ahead and start. It's just a tag commemorating the 2021 National Championship baseball season for Mississippi State. That's the description of the bill. Are there any questions? Senator England.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand this is the Mississippi State University to commemorate the national championship of this past year. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Has there ever been another national championship in this state
Yes.
for baseball?
I don't, Delta State.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad we're commemorating Mississippi State Bulldogs. Hail State.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any other questions? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next couple of bills, our friends from MDA are here to discuss. First bill, Senate Bill 2764, the Local Government Capital Improvement Revolving Loan Fund. Extend the repealer on MDA's authority to use funds. Mr. Miller, thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Harkins. Thank you for members of the committee. We've got just a few requests to extend repealers on programs, and then I think we've also got a relatively new program that we need to speak about. So the first is pretty straightforward. It's our CAP loan program, which is as described in the bill language. It's basically a revolving loan program that given to local governments, county and municipal governments to help assist, streets, water, sewer, typical capital improvements that they may need. It's fixed at a 3% interest rate and backed by local property taxes typically. There doesn't need to be a specific project associated with these loans, but they can come to us if they're in need of some capital improvement. So we'd like to extend this program through 2026.
Okay, it extends the repealer 4 years. All right, you heard the description. Are there any questions on the bill? Seeing none, for a motion. Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. It will be reported out. Next is Senate Bill 2770, the extend the repealer on job tax credit for certain water transportation enterprises. Mr. Miller.
Yes, sir. This income tax, income tax job credit was created in 2019 to assist enterprises or businesses that are operating on some of the inland waterways, the rivers, intercoastal waterways. It's basically a income tax credit for full-time jobs that are created. They get up to a $2,000 income tax credit for up to 5 years. We have a handful of companies utilizing this, and we believe it's been positive, and we'd like to see this program extended for another 4 years.
Okay. Any questions on the bill? Seeing none, motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next bill, Senate Bill 2771, extend the repealer on tax credit for certain charges used certain port and airport facilities.
Yes, sir. This is also a income tax credit available to companies or businesses that are utilizing our ports, state ports, county harbors, and also airports. It's basically allows for those expenses being incurred for receiving into the port, handling a vessel or wharfage at our ports. And then for airports, it includes receiving into the airport aircraft marshaling or handling fees, and also aircraft handling fees. So those expenses incurred by that business would then be up to 50%, reduce their liability and a tax credit for their income tax. And this was an incentive to encourage businesses, because they only get this at a port or an airport, county-owned or publicly owned airport or port. So it is there to incentive or encourage businesses to do business at our ports. And we'd also like to see this extended for 4 years.
All right. Any questions on the bill? For motion? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next is Senate Bill 2773, extend the repealer on credit for certain costs paid by a company in relocating national or regional headquarters to the state.
This is also similar to the title. We obviously, as we recruit companies and try to encourage those companies to relocate to Mississippi, this is one of the tools we use. We have used it recently to locate a company out of California to Mississippi. But it is basically to cover the cost or give them a tax credit for the cost of relocating equipment or other eligible expenses to come to Mississippi to relocate their regional or national headquarters.
Any questions? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. That will be reported. Last bill, Senate Bill 2772, State Small Business Credit Initiative, authorize MDA to form a private nonprofit entity for economic development.
Okay, this one, this is a result of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. It reauthorized and amended the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010. In 2011, MDA had this program, and basically it was funds which was to help assist in small businesses to get credit and capital because the markets had tightened post 2008 financial crisis. So as a result of this federal legislation, they have now, MDA is the designated or authorized agency to deploy these funds. It's $52 million. And we've been working with our federal partners to, understand how the money could be deployed. But basically, just like in 2011 timeframe, there'll be some loan guarantees back with banks. We've met with banks and other stakeholders. We will do a portion of that. We also intend to stand up a venture capital fund this time to help small businesses, startups in the state. Because, as I understand it, our Constitution does not allow the state to have an equity interest in a business. We need authorization to stand up a private nonprofit that would then administer this fund with our oversight. But the leverage in this fund would be 1-to-1, so there'd be at least for every dollar that we loan, and this would be a loan program, it wouldn't be just a grant, but for every dollar we loan to a small business startup, there would be a private dollar match with that. So this would give us the authorization to proceed and stand up that nonprofit that would then administer the fund.
Can you kind of talk back to in 2011 when the fund was created and what MDA did back then? Just kind of what were some of the programs or what were some of the instances that I know you weren't here.
Yeah. I brought Sarah Watson, who I believe was a part of administering that program. I think it was primarily all loan guarantees, but if you want to say some specifics.
We put all 13 million from the 2010-11 funding into a loan guarantee program. We partnered with banks across the state. They made small business loans and the state provided a guarantee to back up to 60, 70, 80% of potential losses from those small business loans, but it was all programmed as a loan guarantee.
Okay. Senator McDaniel, question?
And I apologize for not facing the speaker. I have to use the microphone. $52 million, is that how much is presently in this fund?
The question is, it $52 million? Is that?
Yes, just so I understand.
Yeah, it was, I think the federal legislation, it was a carve out of $10 billion for all the states. It was a formula that was used to determine what amount of money Mississippi would be eligible to apply for. So our number is 52 million.
And the federal purpose behind this plan, was it liquidity? Is that the issue, or?
It is access to capital. It is the same mission of the original federal legislation, access for small businesses to capital.
Okay, there was a capital crunch at some point. Does that crunch still exist in this environment?
That is, I believe, the federal intent behind it, and they believe that those conditions still exist.
I don't think I speak alone when I say I've lost a lot of confidence in some of the federal plans as it pertains to the markets. I'm curious, the feds give us this money. What restrictions do we have on the use of the money?
Under the Ssbci program, there were 5 different types of programs. We can do direct loans, a collateral access program, loan guarantee, a venture capital program is one of the options. So it's all forms of credit support or venture capital were the 5 program types that were eligible.
Do these expenditures expire at some point, or is this perpetual?
Yes, there's a timeline associated with this. As Jamie mentioned, our base allocation is $52 million, and we're still in the process of applying to Treasury for that. Once we are approved for an application, enter into an agreement with Treasury, we will have 3 years to deploy the first tranche of those funds. They are set up in a 3 tranche process, so we would have to obligate about $18 million before we would access the second tranche. And once we obligated 80% of that, we could access the 3rd tranche. So they're trying to obviously push this out quickly.
That makes sense. You mentioned also loan guarantees of up to 60%. Explain that to me.
The way the program worked under the first round, and we would intend to follow a similar path, would be the individual private bank would make a small business loan to hardware store. They're expanding, need either a line of credit, need to build a building, or whatever the case may be. They're making a small business loan. They would apply to MDA for a portion to cover a portion of the losses. So if we did a 60% guarantee, that means if the loan defaults at some point during the term of the guarantee, they would pursue claiming on the collateral. They would either sell off property or the building or whatever the collateral that the borrower had put up for the loan. And then if there was still a loss, they would come to MDA and we would cover 60% of that. So if there was $1 million loan, at the end of the day, they were really only short $100,000, we would be out $60,000 to make that.
I'm just curious, has anyone defaulted that we know of? It's
From the first round of the program, we did over hundreds of loans, and we did have a handful that did default. There were a few here.
okay. Thank you.
Senator Thomas, question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. You mentioned MBA form of nonprofit.
That's an excellent question.
Good question.
We're still working on those details, and obviously we would work through this with US Treasury as well from meeting their requirements of the program, but we intend that there would be MDA oversight that we would kind of go through regulations to specify that there is a committee that's reviewing those investments. We would include professionals in the venture equity investment world, private sector individuals that can be, because we're not the experts in the room on that particular issue. And so we would bring those folks in to establish a board that would review those investments.
Will you share that information once you before we appoint?
Absolutely.
Who's going to be the participant?
Certainly.
Thank you. Senator Blunt for a question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I understand when you did this before in 2011, this was all run through the Development Authority, and there was no private nonprofit in place. Y'all ran a similar program with less money yourselves. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you would be able to do that again without establishing a private nonprofit company?
If we only did the loan guarantees, if we were not doing the venture capital fund,
Right.
then yes.
Okay. So where's the money to this private nonprofit going to come from? Whose money is it?
For the venture capital fund, or you?
Yes, the private nonprofit that would be formed but beginning on line 28.
Under Ssbci, the feds do allow a small percentage to go to administration of the program. So we would anticipate structuring this in that manner, that they would be able to utilize some of the admin that's allowed by Treasury.
Well, they would have money to administer the program, but the money that they would have to loan to businesses that they would select would be taxpayer money.
It would be yes.
Okay. And would the employees of this private nonprofit be paid by the taxpayers?
That would be our anticipation.
And would they be subject to the state personnel board, or will their salaries be set by the legislature? Would they be members of the retirement system?
I wouldn't anticipate so, but we have
Okay.
not.
would they be subject to state bid laws or state open records laws or state regarding their finances and their meetings and their procurement processes? Would they be subject to any of that?
We would have an RFP process for selection of funds and deployment of those funds. Again, the businesses, as it is now from the loan guarantee side, businesses are making application through banks to MDA. This would be a similar situation where there are applications open to small businesses to access funds for the small business loans or equity investments.
Are you familiar with Magnolia Venture Capital?
Yes, sir.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Magnolia Venture Capital, would you remind the legislature about what happened in 1997 and the giant scandal that resulted when the state decided to get in the venture capital business? You want to tell them about what happened in the peer reports that followed and how millions of taxpayer dollars were squandered by a private company set up by the state to do what is the proper job of private enterprise, which is venture capital? Isn't that what happened? And so why should we do that again? Why should we isn't the purpose, and I think y'all do a good job. And I think that your reason we have your agency is to run programs like this and be accountable to the public and to the taxpayers and the legislature. So why do we need to set up a private company without any details whatsoever and give them tens of millions of dollars to do whatever they want when y'all are perfectly capable of doing that? Why should we do that?
Again, given the statutory issue of the constitutional issue of owning equity in a private business, we felt like we needed that one step removed. There
That's
was
right,
something
because what does the Constitution say about the state being in private business?
that we are not allowed to own.
Okay, that's right. That's what it says. Okay, I know no more questions, Mr. Chairman. I move,
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be ready for a motion, proper time.
Are there any other questions concerning the bill? All right, seeing none. Senator Blunt,
Move to table.
all right. If you want to vote to table the bill, vote in the affirmative. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Noes have it. Division. Division's been requested. All those in favor of tabling the bill, please stand. One, two, seven. All right. If you're opposed, vote no, please stand. By a vote of 11 to 10, the motion fails. That was close. All right. No other questions for a motion? Motion is title sufficient do pass committee sub. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no?
No.
The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, if I may, hold that bill in the motion to reconsider. I hope we will meet again before the deadline. I hope we would meet again before the deadline. And so,
We plan on meeting Thursday and next Tuesday.
okay, then I would like to hold that bill in a motion so we can discuss it further.
Seeing any other questions for motion, rise and report.